AIM-listed 4D Pharma has said results have far exceeded expectations of a recent trial of one of the company's cancer treatments using the interesting new area of live biotherapeutics. 4D's Chief Executive, Duncan Peyton, joins us now on the line from Leeds. Duncan, it's good to be able to catch up with you again. We've seen some spectacular moves recently in the share price. We'll get onto that in just a minute. And I want to take a look in some more details as well about this recent trial on this cancer trial that's been underway. But before I get onto that, live biotherapeutics, explain what it is you're doing.
Live biotherapeutics, it's simply, if you think about your gut, you have about 2.5 kilograms of bacteria in your gut. And we've thought for a long time that they're just there to help us digest food and help us process vitamins. But actually, and interestingly, we're starting to understand that the bacteria in your gut plays quite an important part, and a really important part, in fact, in terms of how the immune system is primed and how the immune system acts. So what we're really doing is we're taking the bacteria, which we can find in the gut, figuring out how it interacts with the immune system and making a drug like any other traditional pharma company. And one of the best things about that is, so we want to see drugs which are efficacious. But interestingly, these drugs are safe. And I think that's a huge step forward for the pharmaceutical industry. If you have a drug which is efficacious and safe, it's a win for everyone.
Yeah, I want to show a share price now because I think it's interesting in the context of what we're just about to talk about with this cancer trial. And you can see quite clearly here, I've drawn this circle around the point at which you had a big gap up on the 26th of August, I think it was, when you released the news that you had got these trial results. I think this is what the results were for part A. Explain more about the results that you've got, which you say beat the threshold that you set in place before the trial started. So clearly you've got this uplift in shares subsequent to the news.
Yeah, great day for 4D Pharma, great day for, the drug MRX-518, which is our first drug out of our oncology franchise. The trial itself is in patients who, have cleared all the cards. They really don't have other treatments. They've been heavily pre-treated, including, checkpoint therapies, which is the leading light in the oncology space. Unfortunately, checkpoints don't work in all patients, and in some patients, the response will start to wane. And they're the patients that we're really targeting. So these guys on this trial had 7, 8 different types of treatment. And what we saw was by using MRX-518 in conjunction with Merck's Keytruda, and Merck's Keytruda is the biggest selling drug in the space. I think it did $3 billion last quarter. We're able to re-engage the immune system and start to see a response, which is great. But I think the really encouraging thing for 4D Pharma was the duration of the responses that we're seeing. So we're seeing patients remaining on drug for 60 weeks, over 60 weeks now, which is fantastic. If you're told by your physician that there's nothing else they can do, and you go on a trial and you've got an additional 60 weeks, that's a major step forward. And we thought we'd see about maybe 1 in 10. We saw 5 patients respond. Just a fantastic day, for 4D Pharma, for Merck, who are our partners in the trial, for the patients and for the physicians.
How prevalent is this type of cancer that you are attempting to treat with this trial? And how many people have you been able to sign up? I mean, the prevalency, I guess, it depends on how many people have it as to how big your trial base is.
That's a great question. And in terms of, defining the market that we're looking at. So this is a trial that we're looking at renal cell carcinoma, non-small cell lung cancer, which is one of the most prevalent cancers in the world. And we're starting to expand the trial as well to look at other tumor types as well. So we're really looking, across the board in the solid tumors with MRX-518. The first 12 patients were there to show safety, but also we got some efficacy data. That trial's now expanded out. We've just enrolled the 4th site in the US. So we've got 4 more sites. We've got another 100 patients coming on the trial, and that recruitment's going really well for us. So it's a big area.
How long is this all likely to take? We know that trials go on for a long period of time. And of course, you're operating in these Western markets that are very particular in the way that they see the trial results. They want to see very positive results before they let things move on. How long is it we're talking, in the best case, before this sort of thing potentially comes to the market? I know there's a lot of water to pass under the bridge before then.
Yeah, exactly right. Safety is a big driver for getting drugs approved. And what we've shown is 518 safe. And we've shown that across all our clinical programs as well. And that's one of the great things about live biotherapeutics. I think, with 4D Pharma, with this trial, we've got the patients who are being recruited. We think we'll finish that recruitment towards the end of next summer. We're also looking at how we take the data that we've got at the minute and we work with the regulators to go for an accelerated approval trial. And that's something that we're working on incredibly hard. And that trial, if we get that started, it'll take 18 months plus before we get that trial completed. So yeah, there's time. It's going to take some time, but building on what we've seen, I think it's worth the wait.
Part of this, of course, is how you're going to fund the entire program. The longer it lasts, of course, the more it costs. But nonetheless, obviously, at the end of it, you're hoping for something which is going to be a market leader in this particular area. So potential profitability. But before then, as I say, you have to pay for it. What's the plan to get money into the bank to ensure that you have the money standing there to continue the trials?
Yeah, I think one of the things about being a biotech business, we are capital hungry. We work with partnerships in the vaccine space with Merck, which has allowed us to bring some capital in. We're also developing our investor base, not only in the UK, but also expanding that in the US. And I think, over the coming, weeks and months, we'll expand on what we want to do in terms of accessing, more capital, particularly from the US markets.
Let's move on and take a look at other areas, because I know that 4D has a number of interesting areas, one of which we've got to talk about because it involves a respiratory trial. I know you're taking on candidates that have COVID-19 to test this on them. And I know when we were last talking early in the summer, you were saying that you were bringing on candidates that had COVID-19 and you were doing starting some trials then. I mean, you talk about prevalency. This potentially has a global reach for pretty much all the population. How is the COVID-19 trial going?
Yeah, this is something that we started, just as lockdown started. We worked with the regulators. We got our approval to do a trial in a really compacted period of time. We got the trial up and running, but as the trial got up and running, we started to see the prevalence of COVID drop off. Obviously, we're seeing a spike now, which is probably more to do with testing, but we're not seeing an increase in the hospitalization rate. So that trial is in terms of recruitment, is fairly static at the moment. We'll wait and see how that progresses as we get into the winter months and people start to move more indoors, become more susceptible to infections. And I think we'll see that on a global scale. This isn't something which just affects 4D Pharma's trial in COVID. This affects all the trials in COVID. So it's a problem that everyone's seeing. But on the plus side, as well as people not being hospitalized by COVID, it actually allows patients to start moving around again. So, for example, we can get the patients back into the hospitals and the clinics for the asthma trial, which is something we're really interested in, and that's also linked to how COVID works as well. That deals with hyperinflammation that you see in the lung.
I was going to say, actually, we're talking there about COVID-19, but this is an asthma treatment as well, isn't it? Presumably, when looking at things like the flu symptoms that are produced by COVID, presumably when assuming this drug gets up and running at some point, it will be replicable or usable again over other sorts of flu and other sorts of inflammatory diseases of the lung. Correct.
That's absolutely correct, Jeremy. The mechanism that we've seen with this particular drug, and this drug's called MRX4, it addresses the problems that you see in the lung in terms of breathing. So anything where you're seeing, respiratory problems, asthma, COVID, flu, this has got potential application in those indications.
Okay, let's just begin to wrap this up. I want to talk, if I can, about some other treatments that you've got ongoing, because I know that 4D Pharma has a lot of irons in the fire at the moment. What else are you working on?
I think there's a couple of really interesting, next generation live biotherapeutics, if you like. One of the big areas of interest for 4D Pharma is neurodegeneration, and neurodegeneration is becoming an increasing global problem as the population ages. And what we've found is that the bacteria can actually communicate with the brain, and we've started to unpick the mechanism of that. We've seen some really strong preclinical results. We're building that towards taking that into the clinic. It's already gone through its development phase, so we have clinical product ready. And what these bacteria can do, can give neuroprotection, and we've seen some regeneration of neurons as well. So a really interesting aspect and really pushing forward the boundaries in an indication area which really, in terms of medicine, the pharmaceutical industry, we haven't really got to grips with, and we're looking for new solutions. So that's one area that I think is really interesting. I think the other area is in the vaccine space. This is work that we're doing with Merck, fantastic partner Merck in terms of their innovation and their approach to the microbiome and looking to generate the next generation vaccines. That's something we've worked really hard with Merck in conjunction with them, and we'll see how that progresses in the future. And they're two areas that are really pushing the boundaries forward.
Yeah, are you constantly coming up with new patents? I mean, this is a fairly unique area, isn't it? You presumably don't have much competition out there, do you?
Yeah, I think the point I'd make about 4D Pharma is we're really like a traditional pharma company. We really want to understand mechanism. I really want to understand how these bacteria work. So we call it focus on functionality. And that's been something that we've done from the very start of 4D Pharma. And that's led us to generate a fantastic patent portfolio. I think we've got now over 1,000 granted patents, which is by far the biggest patent estate in the live biotherapeutic space. We've got 1,000 applications in process at the minute. And this covers not only just the bacteria, how we're using it, the functionality, but also areas that you have to think about when you're developing drugs in terms of manufacturing, dosing. So we really have got a broad and varied patent estate.
Yeah. Just briefly, going into the back end of the year, 3.5 months to go, do you see any other milestones you're going to be passing, you're going to be announcing on that could well generate further highs for the recent highs for the stock price?
Yeah, we have. We've just finished a trial in IBS. So this was a trial in IBS is a prevalent disease. About 10 to 15% of the population suffer from IBS. So big marketplace. Some of the drugs out there aren't particularly good in terms of the side effects. So we're hopeful that this data will come out and show that we've got an efficacious drug and safe. And we'd expect to get that data out towards the end of the month, early October.
Yeah, look, okay. Good luck with all that, because it means a lot to everybody, of course. That companies like yourselves that do well in this area and continue to feed through to what the global population needs. But Duncan, in the meantime, thanks indeed for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and look forward to catching up with you again, perhaps maybe towards the back end of the year to check on progress. Okay. Thank you for joining us. That's Duncan Peyton. He's the Chief Executive of 4D Pharma. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGTV and subscribe to our YouTube channel.